16, 1947, the remains of 22-year-old Elizabeth Short, or as she is commonly known, the Black Dahlia, the body was cut in half and so pale and thoroughly drained of blood that Betty Bersinger actually mistook it for a mannequin at first.
Oh.
The body was cut with surgical from a haunting, ever-present smile. There was no blood on the ground, making it clear that the body was moved there after she was murdered.
Okay.
9 days after Short's discovery, an envelope was received by the Examiner, addressed in horrific fashion using cutout letters clipped from movie ads. It read, "Los Angeles Examiner and other Los Angeles papers. Here is Dahlia's belongings. Letter to follow." As promised, the envelope contained Short's social security card, birth certificate, snapshots, and an old address book with some pages missing. Gasoline was rubbed on the contents to remove the fingerprints. Many notes were sent to the police and press that followed. One handwritten letter read, "Turning in Wednesday, January 29, had my fun with police. Black Dahlia event." Arriving in LA, Elizabeth spent time in San Diego with a man named Robert Manley, who drove her to LA and helped her check into the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. Others state that after Manley left, the guy who dropped her off, Short headed to the nearby Crown Grill. Manley, the guy who dropped her off at the Biltmore Hotel.
Ah, the Uber driver.
Yeah, the Uber driver. But not only did he return to San Diego almost a week before her body was discovered, but he also passed a polygraph test. But it is worth noting that in 1954 he was committed to a mental hospital due to hearing voices. However, when administered sodium pentothal, which apparently is a truth serum, he checks out. He checks out. On to the next one. The second suspect was Army Corporal Joseph Dumaze, who claimed to be blackout drunk with Elizabeth in San Francisco a couple days before her discovery. When asked if he thought he killed Elizabeth, he actually said yes, but evidence later showed that he was on his military base the day of her death. The final suspect is George Hodel. But before we begin, let's visit George's home at the time in LA. The house had a secret room where the children were not allowed to go, and nothing screams innocent like a secret room.
Wait, so did the children know of the secret room they weren't allowed to go into?
This is where it gets interesting. So, George's son, Steve Hodel, who was 5 at the time of the Dahlia murder, later became a police investigator for 17 years, and after retiring from the force, became convinced that his father, George Hodel, had actually killed the Black Dahlia. And looking at the facts, Steve Hodel makes a pretty compelling case. So George Hodel was highly intelligent. He studied surgery in medical school and also ran LA County's venereal disease clinic, which would also suggest that he's capable of the surgical disembowelment and mutilation of Elizabeth Short's body that was found at the scene of the crime. Also, despite being a busy doctor, George Hodel was also a busy bachelor, having 11 children from 5 different women.
Wait, this guy had 11 children with 5 different women.
Additionally, Steve Hodel also found pictures of a woman that appeared to be Elizabeth Short in one of his dad's photo albums. However, when examined by a forensic artist, the artist was 85% certain it wasn't Elizabeth in the pictures. But in 2014, a different expert used facial recognition technology, resulting in a 90 to 95% match. But much like the other tests, the results were ultimately inconclusive. Steve also believed his father's handwriting was eerily similar to the handwriting of the Dahlia murderer, but when reviewed by experts, the results were mixed, with opinions ranging from probable to inconclusive. George Hodel was also accused by his own daughter of sexually assaulting her, but was found not guilty. Now here's where things get pretty fishy and suspicious in my opinion. At some point, police officers did suspect George for killing the Black Dahlia and planted listening devices in his home. On tape, George was heard saying, quote, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia, they couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary anymore because she's dead." End quote. Also was caught saying, "This is the best payoff I've seen between law enforcement agencies, and I'd like to get a connection made in the DA's office." George's son also tracked down an LAPD case file that contained a female witness who stated George and Elizabeth knew each other. This strikes me as a really good time to tell you that the LAPD was notoriously corrupt around this time, which perhaps explains why the case was dropped, even though George was emerging as a clear suspect, and would also explain why all physical evidence from the case has magically disappeared.
Wow.
This can mean a lot of things. Some believe that George paid off the police, while others believe that this is just a classic case of police incompetence. But nobody knows for sure. This isn't over, by the way. In 2012, the ever-vigilant Steve Hodel returned to his childhood home with a police dog that indicated the scent of human remains. Regardless, it seems that the famous case of the Black Dahlia will remain unsolved officially, but perhaps